Hello and welcome back to ScaleMeDown and to part 4 of this Jet Legends Gripen series. Remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. In this episode we're going to tackle the artwork, starting with the canards. But sadly the first thing we have to do is remove this lovely mirror gloss finish.
So a bit more wet sanding then. Next, I traced out the canard shapes in Inkscape, which is a vector drawing package. I used them to make some simple masks using the Craft Robo vinyl cutter, and also to make some guides printed and cut out from plain paper to align the masks. Now I could slowly build up the colour using the airbrush. I started with a base colour of Tamiya wooden deck tan and I thinned it with X20 solvent. Next I mixed up some off-white to add some highlights. I put them on all the high spots and the edges that would catch the light. And sometimes, like here on the teeth, I used the paper alignment guides to help with the freehand work. Then I slowly built up the shading using flat earth and black. When I needed finer lines, such as for details or sharper edges, I removed the nozzle guard so that I can get the airbrush closer to the work. I also need to thin the paint a little more and use less of it, building the colour up more slowly. Finally, I can remove the masking, and then I'll protect the design with a couple of layers of clear coat.
For the tiger design on the fin, I used this DIY decal paper. I used the white variety for the tiger, and I also used the clear type for the stencils. And a colour laser printer is better than an inkjet for this task, as the results don't run or fade. And after printing, I protect the decals with 2 coats of clear lacquer before cutting them out and applying them to the model.
This is the biggest water slide decal I've ever used, and I wet the surface first so I can slide it into position. A big thank you to my friend Mark, who tweaked a photograph of the full size in Photoshop to generate this graphic. Before sealing it all down with clear coat, I blended the decal into the paintwork using the airbrush and this frayed paintbrush as a mask. And while we have the airbrush out, let's finish the weathering.
So that is the painting more or less complete, with just the cockpit left to go. And I've tried to keep the weathering fairly subtle, as the full-size display aeroplanes in general are kept clean. But I've once again referred to this book as to areas that accumulate dirt and grime. For example, areas such as the canopy frame, where the pilot and ground crew put their hands while he's getting in and out, or where the APU exhaust is, etc. I've also weathered the tail cone that we made back in episode 3. But before I fit this, I also have this LED afterburner ring to fit, and then of course the rest of the gear.
So I'll just solder some leads to it and check that it works. And then I'll use our laser to cut a mount from plywood that I'll fit to the rear fuselage, tacking with CA glue and then fixing permanently with epoxy. And then fit the LED ring and tail cone using Yoo-Hoo pour. Now let's move on to some cockpit details, and some of these fit the canopy whilst others fit the fuselage, including the pilot, which I've fitted with Yoo-hoo Pour and a large self-tapping screw that goes right through the mount and the seat into his backside. Some of these bits are 3D printed, whilst it was just as easy and lighter to make some of them out of balsa that I clad in plasticard. Now I shall primer and paint all these parts and we can get on with fitting them. It's amazing how a lick of paint and some homemade waterslide decals, along with some out of my scrap box, really brings these parts to life. These bits fit into the canopy frame after it's glazed, whilst these bits mount in the fuselage. Let's take a closer look of it all together. And now, with the radio gear installed, the battery and the operator ID, she's all completed. I've transferred across the centre of gravity position and the control throws from the small profile model that we made, and she's now ready for her maiden flight as a PSS glider. I'll leave you now with some before and after shots from the build, and thanks for watching.